Good morning, everybody. It's the pollinator, and some. I think it was yesterday that I was in a live feed um, on a social media platform, and the topic of that feed was trans men and trans women unity. And there were a lot of comments being made in that feed, and the woman who was doing it was bringing various people into the feed, and I told her I wasn't appropriately dressed, so I didn't want to be in the feed, and um, I didn't know if I was going to be able to get dressed in time for it not to end, but I ended up being the last person that she talked to. So before I, so the title of this vlog is Transmen Transwomen Unity. I've also got music playing in the background, so it'll probably get flagged for what do you call it, copyright violation. I don't know for sure. I could always reach out to Earth, Wind, and Fire and find out if I can use this song in this vlog. But listen, a couple came on before I got in the feed, and the woman was saying, the trans woman was saying one thing, and the trans man was saying a complete opposite, which was he did not think that we will ever unify in the black transgender community. Now, heads up about this particular live and who was doing it. The organization she belonged to, which is BTEC. And I've been approached by many members of BTEC to join that organization, but I cannot bring myself to join anything that isn't focused on being pro-black. You know, all the organizations that I see around the country and in the United States are focused on resources for just the transgender part. And that particular organization, if you don't become the king or queen of that of the pageantry system of that organization, your voice is not heard. So you just end up being one of the I say the what's the word I'm looking for that isn't too rude? You just become one of the followers, people who are supporting, doing fundraisers to get people to the conference they hold once a year in Dallas. And again, I don't have, hey, to each their own. Everybody has their own niche in life. Mine just doesn't have to happen to be focused solely on being transgender. My focus is being on pro-black and transgender, but pro-black first. So, you know, despite how everybody has tried to recruit me into that organization and local organizations that sprout off of the BTEC in Dallas, BTMI, BTIPS, BTWI for trans women. It's just too single focused for me. So that's why I'm not part of that organization. And I'm starting my own organization, and hopefully I'll be able to collaborate with different organizations around the country that are black. So this unity that I'm going to be talking about is about the black transgender community. And I did make notes, but they're kind of all over the place. So you know what? First of all, I'm going to read to you what the word unity means, which is oneness of mind, feelings, or etc., as among a number of persons, concord, harmony, or agreement. This is a humongous problem, not just with the black transgender community, but the black cisgender community too, where because of the desperate situations that we find ourselves in this nation, uh-oh, I really didn't mean it to jump around like that. I meant it to repeat. So I'm just going to turn this off. Because of white supremacy, because of racism, because of privilege, and lesser so because of fragility, white fragility, this system of oppression that we are inside of, that we live inside of every day, absolutely in an indirect and direct way prevents us from unifying. Not only that, but there's just a lot of anger towards one another, a lot of competition, a lot of top dogging, a lot of things going on inside of the black community that really prevent anybody from having oneness of mind. I mean, everybody's different, and it's very difficult to get a large group of people, well, any kind of group of people together to think alike, to have a common goal. Although, BTEC has managed to do that around their pageantry system and the conference that they hold every year. And there's other conferences going on in the country too, but none of them are focused on the issue of race, which is why we're having such a hard time inside of those communities, inside of those special interest groups. So let me start with trans men. Because look, if black trans men don't unify, how in the heck are we going to be able to unify with trans women? And as far as I'm concerned, there's just a lot of egotistical, self-centered, self-promoting things going on, and lack of supporting one another going on with the alpha males that are leaders of various groups, various organizations, various efforts. It's just hopscotching, and it's just very fragmented about trans men's purpose in their own communities. So it's a no wonder that there is no unity amongst us, because everybody's trying to me, everybody's stepping over everybody else, trying to get to some version of utopia in their own minds, in their own worlds. Everybody wants to be top dog of whatever it is that they're up to in life, and so you've got people, especially on that social media platform, where people are trying to get your attention and trying to get your support for what they're doing in life. But those very same people that are trying to get support are not giving support to other leaders. They're not even acknowledging the existence of other leaders doing other things that aren't their agenda. So, we have to start unifying amongst black trans men before we can rally in black trans women. And I said, there's just a lot of ego positioning and competition. It's just absolutely crazy right now with black trans men. Um, so, and then there's these other things going on within between trans men and trans women, black trans men and trans women, where there's just a complete lack of respect for where each other is coming from. So, in order to unify, there's got to be some respect there on both ends. Um, I have heard, I can't tell you how many times I've heard in the last 2 years of a phenomenon going on where trans women are misgendering trans men. And I said that misgendering, for people who don't know that, is calling people the wrong pronouns on purpose. You know, and yet, that's bad enough. That has to stop in order for us to unify. We can't be disrespecting each other. Trans men cannot be calling trans women he, him, his. And trans women can't turn around and be calling trans men her, she, and all those pronouns. I mean, what is that? Here's where I think that comes from, and I said this on a video yesterday. I think because intrinsically trans men are given a little bit more privilege because they're men than trans women, there's some kind of subliminal being pissed off about losing their privileges because they're women, when they probably grew up and got socialized as men. So there's this weird thing going on where, because of that, they are directly stripping us of, they're emasculating us and stripping us of the privilege that we gained coming out as trans men, and they lost coming out as trans women. So it's just the oddest thing whatsoever. It is just odd. I'm going to give you an example that happened to me last year. I was in the process of trying to get my top surgery paid for by an organization called CK Life. And while I was in that process, I was communicating with somebody up there in New York that I did not know who it was. I totally suspected it was a black trans woman by the way she spoke to me, by her being all twisted and upset when I asserted myself, when I became aggressive about not understanding their process, not understanding what they were after in the paperwork. I had, my endo doctor was trying to do things for me to help that happen. And whoever I was talking to had a problem with every single thing I said. And she actually came out and said, well, you seem to be entitled. I thought, what? Entitled? And I really didn't, everything she said to me was very, God, what is that word I'm looking for? Very, she was just putting me down and trying to put me in a place that she was condescending the entire time I ever tried to communicate with that woman through emails. It's like she had this big chip on her shoulder about how I am as a man. And every chance she got, she tried to emasculate me. And then they turned around after months and months of me waiting to find out whether I was going to get my top surgery paid for by them. They turned around and denied it. And I knew that was going to happen before it happened, just by the attitude of that lady up there in New York. I was very upset, and I knew the owner of that company. I went to her, pouring my heart out to her, and she said, well, you're being awful aggressive. Excuse me, I'm a man. And since when is it wrong to be assertive, aggressive, feisty, or anything? Not only that, I'm a veteran. I served my country for people's rights to be however they are in life. And I ultimately ended up saying, not to the owner of that company, but to whoever I was communicating with up in New York, that, well, yeah, according to my status of being a veteran and a lot of other things, I am entitled to have my top surgery paid for. All of us are. And if there was universal health care in this country, we wouldn't have to deal with nonsense like that was coming out of that company. But they were acting like, well, we got something you want, so you need to kiss our ass to get it. And I was like, fuck. I wasn't going along with the way that she wanted me to be, which is something that is going on between black trans men and black trans women all over the nation, where it's almost like this little whisper that isn't out loud, but it's like, you are to be seen and not heard. We're going to treat you like a woman, even though you're a man. And that, to me, folks, is the reason why I had to agree with that guy that was in that couple, that it is not likely at all that we're going to unify as long as this covert bullshit is going on in our community. So I made a note here that, you know what, if you want support, give support. You want people to take you seriously, take them seriously. Now, this may sound like a complaint, or it might sound negative, but the answer lies in doing the opposite. You want support, give support. And, don't take it out on us as a whole, that society has caused you to lose your privilege when you transitioned to a woman. It's not our fault society is like that, so why take that out on us? But hey, I'm telling you, I see it locally, in person. I see it on the internet. I see it on social media over and over and over again, where trans women are bashing trans men over the head because of their loss of privilege. So what is the answer to that? Stop doing it. Knock it off. If we're going to unify, we have to treat each other with respect and embrace our differences, not have knee-jerk reactions to them. I've gotten unfriended by black trans women for no reason at all, except I guess I associated with somebody that they didn't like. Petty little childish shit. Told that it's unacceptable for me to be aggressive or assertive or feisty or whatever. I mean, what is that about? I'm an alpha male. Anybody got a problem with that? Okay, then they got a problem with that. But I'm not going to change that for anybody. That's just how I am. I've been in live feeds where there were a lot of trans men in the live feed itself, and all of the black trans women in the live feed ignored the trans men who were yakking in the comments of the feed, saying, I guess they don't see us here talking, commenting at them to let us in to the conversation, quit ignoring us. So guess what the answer to that kind of unification is? Stop ignoring each other. Anyway, so I went to a local group here in the metro, and one of the trans women kept wanting me to be in some kind of, it wasn't even a leadership position. It was just to work with them. while all the trans women were in charge of everything, and everything trans men were saying was being ignored. I saw through that immediately and said, I'm not wasting my time driving all the way the fuck down there in order for the trans women to act like they had a chip on their shoulder and that they needed to run everything. We need to run things with them. They need to allow us to run things with them. Or, well, yeah, see, I wasn't going to join anything where, my contributions to the conversation or to the leadership of that group or organization or whatever it was going to be ignored. I mean, what? I'm not a follower. I'm a leader. Treat me like a leader, I'll treat you like a leader. You want to be a follower, I'll treat you like a follower. But if you don't recognize a leader when they're standing right in your face, then you're bad, you lose, or you're lost. I'm not joining anything that wants to push me into a position of being a follower when I'm a leader. That's just totally underutilizing my talents or my wisdom, my age, and a lot of other things that it's misusing instead of using it the proper way, using me the proper way. I'm not going to let anybody use me any other way than the way I want to be used. So also, it's no secret that Facebook has been messing with me since last year. And all of the LGBT organizations around the country are all acting like I don't exist. And if I was a trans woman, I doubt they would be doing that because they're the ones that are getting put in the media. Trans men are the invisible men. And this goes for every LGBTQ plus organization in the country. The pecking order is trans men are at the bottom of it. They'll get around to us, maybe. I see this with lesbians. I see this with gay men. I see this with transgender people. I see this with queer, bisexual. The whole gamut is doing something very, very odd when it comes to black trans men. I don't know the solution to that because we have to unify so that we can be one big ass voice together to let all of these organizations around the country know, hey, don't undervalue us. We are valuable too. But, I have reached out to gay men. I have reached out to lesbians. I have reached out to, and I'm not talking about the group that I was talking about yesterday. I'm talking about completely different ones. And they want to act like we don't exist. What? Okay, look, I'm going to just keep going here. Because this is already getting pretty long. I think trans women, because they are in the lead of many, many things going on in this country, that they need to pull us up and pull us into the conversation and pull us to the level that they are at in this society. And I don't know why they get so much more visibility than trans men. A lot of trans men are stealth. A lot of them don't come forward about their transition, and they're remaining in the background. But the ones who aren't, like me and other men that I know, get some pretty underhanded, petty things happen to them as they try to make their organizations, great organizations. People try to rip off their ideas. Trans women. Folks, this strange competition needs to stop in order for us to unify, in order for us to be a oneness of mind, in order for us to be in harmony with one another. All of these little issues need to be dealt with within your psyche, within your mind, within your emotions. before we're ever going to be able to reach across the table and hear each other. And isn't that kind of the plight of human beings? So it isn't just particular to the black transgender community. It's particular to, it's a problem in mankind. Everybody, people just are not hearing each other. And I'm not talking about just hearing somebody's voice, but listening, which is a different skill. It's a different mindset. It is a different art. Listening, being present to what somebody is saying. The fact that people aren't present to what somebody else is saying cause arguments. Which, yeah, it's like a disease all over the black community, no matter what kind of community it is. So, there's just a lot more resources out there for trans women because trans women are leading the fight. But it's not even the fight for transgender rights because I do not see them doing that. I see white transgender people doing that, particularly white transgender women are the ones that are fighting for the rights of transgender people. Visibly fighting. I'm not talking about having a local group where you're, maybe the top dog in the area that you live in and that you're making, compared to the size of the United States, you're making this little difference in your community. I'm talking about coming out visibly fighting for the rights of transgender people. And if you're black, fighting for the rights of life, fighting for civil liberties, fighting for civil rights. That is just not going on in the transgender community. And, one of my missions in life is to be a pioneer in that, making that happen. If I have to do it alone, I'd rather go out knowing that I tried to make a difference in an area of the transgender black community where people aren't talking about it. They're not talking about it. They're talking about transition stuff, which is, part of our life, but it isn't the only part of our life. And the biggest area that we are being oppressed is because we're black. That's why all the people who are getting killed every year, they're transgender, are black. Yeah. Black trans women. There are some things going on around, one black trans man got killed last year, and there's another one stuck in prison down here in Georgia, and everybody in the nation is ignoring him. Really? If that was a black transgender woman, you think they would be? No. I have seen efforts up north and other parts of the country where if that happens, a whole bunch of black transgender women go to her aid. Not so when it comes to black transgender men. And because we are not as organized, we are not as cohesive inside of that community, we can't help that man. We can help him survive prison. But as far as getting him out and getting all the legal resources he needs and all the other stuff that he needs, we're not big enough we're not unified enough to make a difference for that man. But I bet if a bunch of black transgender women felt that we were just as valuable in this community as they were, they would be going to his aid. I don't know of one black transgender woman who has gone to his aid. I'm talking about Kai Peterson, okay, folks, who is sitting down in some little podunk fucking city in Georgia for killing his rapist, which is an issue all across the nation, whether you be transgender or cisgender, that men, women, and trans men are getting locked up. Black ones are getting locked up for defending themselves against abusive men. Yeah, he belongs part of the Me Too movement. But, you know, herein lies the problem with unifying. If one gender doesn't see the other gender as valuable, and vice versa. You know, and there was also another woman in that live feed last night trans woman who thinks that black transgender men should be their protectors. Really? You know, not if we're not going to be taken seriously as men. You scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. You have my back, I'll have yours. It isn't going to be this one-way street with me. I'm not going to do that just for the sake of doing that. You know, because someone said we should protect them while they're not promoting us. Really? What is that about? If I'm going to take anybody seriously, they better take me seriously. Flat out. So I've gone over a lot of things. I talked about the fact that, you know, I'm not from the ballroom era. I'm not from the pageantry system. I'm not any kind of man that is interested in stuff like that. But there's only one black national organization in the country, and they are not built to grow organizations that aren't about their agenda in any individual city they exist in. It's all about that organization and their agenda. So if you have a different agenda, guess what? You're not going to be taken seriously by that only black national organization for transgender people in the nation. That's why I won't join them. The only way you have a voice is if you enter their pageantry system and become king or queen. One king, one queen. What is that going to do for hundreds of thousands of black transgender people in the country? What is that going to do for them? What does that do? One king and one queen cannot speak for the experiences of everybody in every state and every city, major city where we exist in the United States. That is impossible. So if they don't want to spread out that way and take on other people's organizations and collaborate with organizations, then BTEC is in a very small box to me. Okay, so so there's alpha trans women and there's alpha trans men, and as far as the way I'm seeing it, alpha trans men aren't being treated that way. They want to strip us of the alpha part, when that is how we are. That's how they are. That's how we are. How are our egos all going to get along, folks? Reminds me of Rodney King. Was it Rodney King after he got beat up in L.A.? One of the most famous things that he said that has been carried out through the decades is, can we all get along? I don't see people trying to get along. I see people trying not to get along. That's just the way I see it. In order for us to unify, we do have to get along somehow, some way. Maybe people need to take some communications courses. We learn how to freaking communicate like adults instead of being petty children. And this goes for all sorts of conversations that I have with people on social media, where the reason why I make vlogs is because I'm not trying to have live feeds where people are going every which direction inside of the live feed. I say things for people to think about before they open their mouth and whine or complain or whatever. I'm human. I complain too, but I'm also I'm also a man who's gonna do something about it. I don't just, that's not all I do is complain. I complained for a minute and then I jumped in that live feed to make a difference in that conversation versus just sitting there making comments, complaining and whining about the state of our community, which is bad. It's just this, that is fact. That is reality. We are so divided, and we're divided because we're black, not because we're transgender, but because we suffer from the same ills that every black community in this nation suffers from, which spans generations, generational gaps, and then you turn around and add the transgender gap in the middle of all that. So all these gaps need to be closed, and the only way they're going to be closed is not if, oh, if I join your organization, then you might have a conversation, a global conversation. Okay, forget global. That's too big. National conversation about what the fuck is going on. Live feeds only go so far. Need a bigger conversation than that. What happened last night was a start. But I've seen that conversation started before, and nothing became of it. So, and hell no, I'm not spending hundreds or thousands of dollars to get to a city so that I can network with people about these issues. That's being all about that organization. That isn't being about the issues. You know, they need to network outside of that organization, not just be a vacuum cleaner to suck people into the organization. We got a serious issue going on here, folks, and it's about being black. It's not about being transgender. And as long as people steer clear of that conversation, they're just spinning their wheels. But again, you know, if I'm able to start the kind of organization that I want to start, I'm going to start that conversation and make it bigger and bigger and bigger, and then reach across the table to other organizations and start that same conversation with them. Where we can't hide about this no more, folks. This is a political issue. It's a social issue. It's a civil rights issue. There's all sorts of issues going on that the government and heterosexual cisgender people are attacking on a regular basis, including killing of black transgender women. That is all coming out of white supremacy, folks. Be it white supremacy embedded in the psyche of black people, or white supremacy embedded in the heads of white people. You know, I put a post on my timeline yesterday of this white man who is running around, a white man from Australia who is running around calling us completely out our names, monkeys, all sorts of fucking shit that is allowed to happen on that platform. White people are allowed to do and say anything they want. Yet, you know, people like me, they dog me out every other week and put me in their fuckbook group jail stuff because I'm a threat. And I don't have to call anybody anything. I just have to speak and be pro-black, and they got a problem with me. But they don't got a problem with a bunch of racist white folks running around all over that platform. They don't have a problem with that at all. They tell you block them. After they have insulted you and called you out your name, then they tell you to block them, but it doesn't go against their standards. Then what are these standards? And who do they apply to? Looks like society to me, doesn't it? You know, different standards for different people. Different strokes for different folks. They allow them to get away with all sorts of crap, while they don't allow us to do the same. You know, they got snitches in every group on that platform that rat you out when somebody in there doesn't like what you say. I don't see that happening to white folks. I don't. No, they're the ones that are snitching people out and infiltrating all the, being unpaid spies all over that platform. So the last thing I'm going to say about this is that, critically thinking black trans men are seen as a threat by everyone, including trans men. We're a threat to trans women. We're a threat to trans men. We're a threat to society as a whole because we are seen as black men. And black men are the ones getting thrown away by this society. More so than women. Women get, I want to use the word castrated, but they get put in their place in a different way. Through sexism, through white feminism. They get dogged out. But as black men, we are feared and hunted by white people. Hunted covertly, hunted overtly. And they are so afraid that, we might get a leg up in society and stop what is going on in society that's benefiting them. And they don't want to be without that privilege, thinking that in order for us to get any privileges, they have to lose privileges, which that is just so not so. That is just so not true. And you'd have to go back to a vlog that I created called Tandem Computers and what people were willing to do for the CEO of that company because of the awesome way that he treated people. You treat people well, and they'll do things for you. You treat people bad, then yeah, you need to be fucking scared. Because there's gonna come a point in time where a revolution is gonna happen because of the way that we're being treated. And it's becoming also obvious since Cheeto Head in Washington has given the green light to every racist asshole in the country to do their thing with impunity. So yeah, no wonder they're scared. Not because we're scary people, but because what they're doing is in the wrong. And they know if it was them, they'd fight back. So they're afraid we're going to fight back versus trying to heal from the ills of white supremacy, racism, privilege, and fragility. That's my agenda, is to heal from it, inside of it, while it will continue to happen. So, I ain't out to hurt nobody, though. Just, anyway, these are my thoughts about unity, and, it is very difficult not to think that what that man said is not the truth. That he doesn't see a day where we will unify. I don't see that day. I see another pocket of unity versus a national movement of unity. Because not everybody is on the same page. Not everybody wants to be on the same page. Just like, hey, I'm not on the same page as BTAC. Doesn't mean we can't work together, but it seems to me the only way that they'll work with me or work with other leaders is if they join that organization. And if you join that organization, all your time is going to get spent up in that with that organization's agenda, instead of me having mine, they have theirs, and we collaborate and work together with it without anybody trying to strip anybody of their members, nobody trying to steal anybody's ideas, nobody trying to do anything petty like that. The petty childishness needs to happen, needs to stop, and people need to grow up if you want to take this thing called unity seriously. It's going to take some serious, mature people to lead that effort, not pay lip service to it. So I hope everybody has a blessed Sunday, and I'm sure there'll be some stuff that will fall out of this vlog that I made. But hey, it's as the pollinator sees it. Doesn't mean a thing. Everybody's got an opinion. Everybody's got, what do they call that? Opinions are like assholes. Everybody's got one. So take it or leave it. Take it with a grain of salt, or take the things that I said seriously. And the pollinator is out. Peace.